But here are the rules. Players on the sports media top 150 most marketable athletes within 1 year prior to the current year league season.
The thing everyone knows that. Every day, it's actually my homepage on my browser. I'm like, who's in the top 100 most marketable players?
Yeah.
Continue. That's
Players
just one.
selected for the top 30 of the Ballon d'Or voting in the 2 years prior to the current league season, or players selected the top 40 of Guardian's top 100 football players in the world.
Moses Nyman's like, you give me my money. That was me.
In the 2 years prior. Players selected in the top 40 of ESPN FC top 50 football players of the world 2 years prior. Top 11 minutes played in the U.S. women's national team for 2 years prior, or top 1 minutes played for the U.S. women's national team in the prior 2 calendar year for goalkeepers for all competition types. Players selected as an NWSL MVP finalist within the previous 2 league seasons, or the players selected to the end of the year best 11, NWSL best 11 first team within the previous 2 seasons. It is so evident. It is so evident what this is. And maybe some of the GMs are okay. The owners have seceded a lot of power to the players, and justifiably so. I mean, all the issues you talked about in 2020, those have still not gone away. They've certainly winded their way down. There's no big, expose stories that have come out in the past few years. There've been some odd departures where it's like, nope, they're no longer on this team anymore. And sometimes it's been a little harder to find out. But there's been a lot of ceding of power, and there's been a lot of comments, anonymous comments from GMs, from ownership about how they feel like it's gone too far. They feel like the players now have had too much power. It is so, rather than just increasing the salary cap, rather than getting rid of the salary cap, rather than doing all these things, they have decided, no. We are going to exercise some control. So we are going to set up this convoluted, set of criteria. We're not gonna get it to where a player knows how much cap they have and they say, I'm worth it. I'm worth that amount of money. It's all absolutely bonkers. It is such a bonkers. This to me is like the real, this just feels stupid. This just feels completely arbitrary.
I will do the devil's advocate straw manning argument for the owners here, because someone has to do it. So this came about originally when Sam Kerr left. They were trying to figure out, in events where someone who is commercially very important to the league, what could they do around league rules to keep them? And basically at that point, as I recall, they basically were like, well, the owners will all just decide we'll make an exception. That'll be the rule. And we'll just approve it, and then it'll go forward. And that was fine. That worked, kind of. Sam Kerr left, by the way, so it didn't work that well. And now they're in this position where a player who has positioned herself both as an elite talent on the field, but also an elite marketing person, an elite sort of in the market, most famous women's soccer player in the country, probably top 5 in the world, maybe even higher than that. I don't know. And the argument that the Spirit are making, you need to keep her, NWSL. This is not just a thing for us, it's for the league. So they're saying all right, yeah, I hear you. But we do need to figure out a way to accommodate these things that are off the field elements of the team. And this is the way we'll do it. The way they're doing it is stupid, as we've already mentioned before. It's also extremely self-dealing, because if you look at some of these voting things you can be associated on, there are members of the league, there are employees of the league who are voting on this. There are coaches that are currently in the NWSL who can vote for the ESPN top 50. So you can't do that. That seems quite obvious. Well, that clearly we can't include that one, but they included it. So it's very stupid. It will certainly, the weird thing here is, the Players Association was like, why don't we do this? Why don't we raise the salary cap? And they're like, all right, how about we're gonna ignore you completely, and this is now the rule. And we took exactly the amount of time that we were obligated to under the players agreement to make changes, and we did it. And now the NWSLPA is suing them, or is going to take legal action. So this will be very interesting to see how it plays out. All this is happening in an environment in which Trinity Rodman is free to go anywhere she wants. It's certainly looking to me a lot more likely that she's going to end up in Europe now with all of this, the shenanigans at play here and how long it will take to sort out. She might just be like, you know what? I'll just sign for Chelsea right now on a 4-year deal and make pretty much the same amount of money. And I'll have a locked in location and I don't have to worry about all this nonsense. That's what I would do at this point. Even if I wanted to stay, I'd be like, this is too much. I'm just going to go. You guys do not have it figured out clearly.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I don't know if that's, I could still see her potentially coming back. It seems like she really does want to stay in the DC area. She might wait for the dust to settle. She might still sign a contract, or I think if it depends on how long this carries out. If this is settled, I would say within the next month or so, could see her completely just resigning, being back on the roster. I think it's all dependent how long this gets kind of dragged out as to whether she takes this deal or not. So
we should just do a high impact player rule where you just ask the RFK Refugees show who we think should get it. And then whatever we say goes. Why don't we do that? That's my counter proposal to the league.
I mean, really, to me, the criteria they're establishing really feels like if they're ever doing it. I think that part of it, if they had just said, $1 million, high impact player, I think they want to seem like it's not a designated player rule. I think that was the idea behind this. So you can do this for one player or multiple players. Like there isn't like a set. You have these three DPs. They take up this amount of the cap. You can pay them whatever. It's very clear. It's like, here's $1 million, spend it how you want, as far as like, whether you can buy 5 impact players, 2 impact players,
They heard Tobin's podcast and were like, you don't want to create haves and have-nots? Well, that's up to you guys now. This rule allows you to spread it out as much, give everybody $5 more. However you want to do this, you could do it. But it's so ham-fisted. It will not, I cannot imagine the final version of this is as presented. I just can't.
Yeah.
But hopefully the spirit come out ahead in this some way or the other.
Somewhat or another, yeah. I mean, I'm curious to, also I'd be curious the amount of players that get into this realm. You talk about this sort of the top 40. You also talk about how they have the ability. It's like the GMs have the ability to vote or not vote for certain players. How much does this incentivize certain players? Also, I think someone, accurately pointed out as well, this puts a lot of power. The fact the Guardian is on this list, sort of identifying the top 40. You're sort of ceding a lot of this to Europe and to how they're voting, and in particular with the Ballon d'Or voting as well. Maybe even the ESPN, like a lot of it is sort of seceded to that.
Someone also made a good point that I want to make sure we give credence to, is that this has a giant hole in it and that it has no representation of the African continent. It has no representation of any Asian players. So those players who are clearly dominant in NWSL do not have the same sort of eyeball and attention of their home fans that can help vote them into this way. So certainly something to take a look at there about how unfair it might be.
Yeah, very in my estimation too, you talk about, you could say, well, they could come up with a way to make it a national team, very U.S. women's national team driven. Like Esme Morgan probably has no shot at earning this, more money. She could be the top player as a defender. Attackers are going to heavily populate the top 30, top 40 of that rule. So also, I would say it very much favors attackers. I mean, your marketable players are going to be your attackers. That's just the way we are. People like goals. Your top 30, top 40. I would be curious to go look at the list and see how many in the top 40, like what the ratio is from attackers and defenders. Yeah.
The defensive midfielders dominating the most popular. It's like, what if the DP rule was very patriarchal and Don Garberg told you who you could sign, essentially?
Yeah.
You don't want to sign a defender in this. That would be silly. You're not allowed to do that. So sorry. Anyway, so that's that. I think that is certainly the NWSL hot story of the offseason. And I think we're hopefully, like you said, if it goes much longer than a month, I think they're really shooting themselves in the foot about the whole point of this, which was to keep and retain Trinity Rodman.
This feels like a move a league makes, that they have so much momentum now. They have so much going forward with them. TV ratings were very good for the NWSL final. They've been very good for NWSL games. And this feels like you're really just kind of like potentially throwing that a lot away. So let's move on. Let's talk DC United. They have been a very busy team. And shockingly, maybe there's some reason to have maybe an inkling of some hope. Yes, maybe some hope. maybe some hope. It's they've been a deadbeat dad for a while, but you know what? They've shown up to the kids' soccer game sober twice now. So
They brought a skateboard with a bow on it.
they get the supervised visitation rights. We're at that kind of level of visitation with this team.